Hope everybody's doing good. Everybody's healthy. Families are healthy. Everybody's safe. Um, just to open, to, in this unprecedented times that we're in, and just want to thank, all the healthcare workers, all the first responders, all the people out there that are making a lot of sacrifices, around the world, not just in our country, but around the world, to make, to beat this. It's heroic, what they're doing. And I don't ever want to lose sight or perspective of where we're at right now, the entire world, what we're trying to defeat. And it's something very difficult. I think our government here in Indiana has done a tremendous job. And the people of Indiana have done a tremendous job, with social distancing, listening to what the instructions were for us to stop this thing. And it's been an inconvenience for everybody, but it's been the right thing to do. And I always say, there's always light in the darkness. There's always light in the darkness. You just got to find it. It's been interesting just with my family being home this last 3.5 weeks that we've been able to, I almost forget, we have dinner tonight, we have dinner every night together. Our lives have been taken over by youth sports. I mean, they really had. And look, for the good. I mean, all our kids are active. They've been in youth sports. And so it was hard to get us all together at any point just to spend time together as a family to eat dinner. I mean, little things you kind of take for granted that we're doing now every night to watch my kids. It's almost like when I grew up, to watch them have to go out and play in the yard and play baseball in the yard and find time with each other. I mean, that's been reward. I'm not gonna lie, that's been very rewarding. Our team, our group of scouts, they've been unbelievable in this process. Not one of them has flinched once. They've not blinked. Any change, anything that's happened, they found answers to. And I'm fortunate. I am fortunate to have the group that I have with me and around me that, that supports. I mean, I always say it's never about one person. You're only as strong as the people that you have around you. And, our group is exceptionally strong, and I'm very fortunate to have them. They've solved problems along the way and found ways for us to be able to communicate, keep our process the same way. We've actually grown. There's a lot of things that I think we've figured out here over the last 3 weeks that we like and that we're going to continue to do going forward. We've still had some very healthy discussions. I kept waiting for somebody to break in and record it. But, it's been fun. We've had the same debate. We've got the same work done. We'll continue to go through this draft and operate as business as usual. All right. Questions?
All right. Mike Chappell, you're up first.
Chris, how you doing? Curious with when you bring in Phillip Rivers and your investment in him, how does that change your approach in the draft? Are you still looking for your quarterback of the future, or are they not related?
No, that's a really good question. I mean, all right, so a couple things here. I think one of the things, I think I've talked about this numerous times, about you can't force that. You can't force the quarterback position in terms, especially in the draft. I think history's shown that. It's got to be the right guy, the right fit, for us and for our staff and for our organization. So I don't know when that's going to happen. Maybe this year, maybe next year, maybe 2 years from now. I don't know. I can't, and I'm not going to force it, much to everybody's dismay, and it might drive everybody nuts, but I'm not going to force that issue. When we decide to take one up that we think is going to be the future guy of this franchise, you got to be right. And look, I don't want to discount, Jacoby Brissett. I mean, Jacoby Brissett's still a good player. This was a unique opportunity with Phillip. You have a potential Hall of Fame quarterback hit the market that has history with both our head coach and our offensive coordinator. So we're fortunate to have both these guys on the roster at the same time. And as we go forward, we'll figure out, what we need to do at the position. But for now, we feel pretty good, about the position.
All right, let's go Zack Kieffer.
Hey,
Hey,
Chris.
Zach.
So the experts think this is probably as deep as it's been in a long time at the wide receiver spot. You guys haven't added anybody in free agency. Does that allow you to be more flexible considering where you're at in the draft, not with the first round pick right now? Or does that mean, it could be a time to get up and get someone if you feel really aggressive?
Well, look, there is a lot of depth at wideout in the draft. We feel very good about that at every level. From guys we think can start to guys that we think can play significant roles. I think you always got to let the draft play out. It's hard to predict it before. It's even hard to predict it when you're going through it. You just got to be patient and let it play out. And the one thing I think, y'all been around me long enough. We're not going to force a pick. I think you make your biggest mistakes when you force things, Zach. When okay, we have to have this, so let's just we're always going to take the best player. If we have a guy ranked above him, we spend all this time getting this board right and set. And once it's set on, by next Thursday, we're not changing. We're not moving it. So whether it's wide out, whether it's, defensive line, whether it's O-line, right? You don't know. You got to let it play out. We're always going to take the higher talent. Now, if it's even and it's a position of need, then yeah, we'll take the guy that's the position of need over the even. But we do like saying that. We do like the depth at wide out in the draft. Getting T.Y. Hilton back healthy again, getting Parrish Campbell healthy again, having Zach Pascal. It's not like where it's a complete void at the position. We do think we have some talented guys there.
All right, let's go Mike Wells.
Hey, Chris.
Hello, Wells.
How you doing?
I'm good, brother.
And me, go back to Rivers. I know you talked about it being a unique situation and everything, but when you think about how you have approached free agency since you got hired, one thing you've always talked about is younger players still who haven't tapped into the potential. Can you just kind of go a little more further detailed on what made you go kind of against the grain on what you've been talking about since you got hired?
I think the quarterback position is a little bit different than the rest of them. And I think this situation was a little bit unique. And it's not like it financially hurts us going long term. It didn't put us in a position, even with both of them under contract. It doesn't, Mike Bloom, our cap guy, has done such a tremendous job with the cap and with our cash that we're in a unique spot here that we were able to do this. Sometimes if from a cap standpoint, you wouldn't be able to make these moves, but he's done such a tremendous job. And because it is the quarterback position and because of his stature, it just made it a unique opportunity. Every other guy that we've acquired has been really fit into our mold. Maybe Xavier, because he's 29 years old, is a little bit, different. But for the most part, we've stayed pretty disciplined, with what we want to do.
Okay, George Bremer.
Hey, George.
How you doing?
Good.
With the uncertainty around this offseason and how long it's going to be and all those sorts of things, does it change the way you stack the draft board at all? Are you looking for fast learners? Are you looking for more polished prospects? Any of those factors?
No, we'll continue to draft, how we do. I don't think you can enter into a draft thinking, well, just about one season. You need to be thinking long term at all points. I don't ever draft a guy thinking, well, he's just going to help us this year. And matter of fact, I've probably made some mistakes where I didn't take a guy or two that I wish I'd have had more of a long-term outlook on the player. But no, and look, our characteristics that we're looking for, those are two things that, football intelligence and, being able to pick it up quickly, those are all things we look for anyways. But our approach won't change.
Okay, Charlie Clifford.
Hey, Chris, thanks for the time.
Hey, Charlie.
Quick question just on the logistics. Once the draft kicks off, how does it look on your end behind the scenes? Is there a way you can mimic and be best prepared for this virtual deal?
Yeah. I mean, all right, so here's the good news. All 32 teams are under the same conditions. Nobody's got an advantage over anybody. And the more that we've been through these type of meetings, and we've used a couple different platforms, one to keep people a little off balance of knowing what we're using. We've gotten more comfortable with it. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, what's the difference between us being here right now and then us being in the media room at the complex? There's no difference. I mean, other than y'all get to sit and shoot the bull for a little bit before. I mean, we're still getting the same work done and being just as productive.
Okay, Kevin Bowen.
Hey, Kev.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
You mentioned Xavier earlier. Can you kind of go into detail on going from Pierre to Xavier?
Yeah, well, Pierre was tough because he's such a great kid and great human being. But, at the end of the day, we made a decision that we thought was the best thing, for the team here, this year and going forward. And then getting into Xavier, I mean, look, we have a coach that has history with him, Jonathan Gannon, and also Allen. But saying that, this guy's been a Pro Bowl corner in the league. He's only 29 years old. He's got some unique traits. We think we can get him back to playing at that level. I think he's pretty hungry. I think, being released by by Minnesota sparked a fire in him. And so it's fun. It's going to be fun to watch him play with a chip on his shoulder because I think he can, I think he can still be a high performer for us.
Joel Erickson.
Hey, Joel.
Hey, Chris. You guys haven't signed anybody at wide receiver in free agency. Was it just didn't have a fit with the class, didn't like the class, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys that we kind of dabbled with, but just didn't, at the end of the day, just didn't work out. Sometimes it happens that way.
Okay, let's go Jim Aiello.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Chris, thanks for doing this. I want to ask about DeForest and trading the 13th pick. It probably couldn't have been easy for you, I'm thinking, but I think obviously it reflects on how you guys feel about DeForest. But I was wondering if you could talk about that one, but the other part, how does it reflect on what you see kind of at that part of the draft?
I think first, number one, it was easy. I thought it was very easy. Here's a 26-year-old. He's got everything we stand for, high character. He's a producer. He was one of the best. I mean, all you got to do is put on the Super Bowl game. I mean, if you want to watch guys, the great players produce in the big games. Just watch the Super Bowl game. I mean, that guy played his ass off, and he was disruptive the entire game. He's durable. He's got the character. He plays a premium position in this defense. It was an easy decision. I know the 13th pick is a high price, but we haven't made a lot of big moves, like this. And a chance to acquire a player of this caliber with his character, I thought was a no-brainer. As a matter of fact, I held my freaking breath to make sure, praying that it was going to get done. I couldn't be more pleased about getting this young man into this organization. And I think you'll see the same things I see here going forward. I mean, he's a young guy. And look, premium players cost a premium price. I mean, that's the cost of doing it. That's the cost of having a great player. And we're going to have some more coming up here in the next couple of years on our own team that are going to cost a lot of money. But that's the price to having good players. You want to have good players, they're going to cost you a lot of money. And I thought at the end of the day, the 13th pick versus DeForest was a no-brainer.
Okay, Stephen Holder.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, how we doing?
Good.
Hey, I think if you look around the league, it feels like most of the high-end quarterback starters, they were first-round picks for the most part. And this is not a question about the Colts. This is a general question. When you look beyond that and, until later rounds, we talk about developmental quarterbacks all the time. What constitutes that for you, and how does a guy go from developmental to maybe more than that. Like how hard is it, I guess, to decide who can be a guy who can't?
It's tough. And I mean, I think opportunity a lot of time, Stephen, I think just getting the opportunity to play and prove it. I'll never forget, we took Rex Grossman, I don't know when it was 2003. And then the next year we took Kyle Orton, 2004 or 5. And then next thing you know, Kyle Orton, it was 2005. As a rookie, Grossman gets hurt. Kyle Orton ends up being the starter, and we end up winning the division. I think a lot of times it's just opportunity, getting the reps in live games. I think that you look at the traits that you want in your quarterbacks, things that you're looking for. And then, you hope you've got them ready enough to when they get the opportunity, they're going to perform.
All right. Dave first.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for doing this again.
Yes, sir.
Kind of not necessarily a deep question, but just kind of a philosophical one. Obviously, the process has changed a bit in the last 3.5 weeks. You're doing stuff you probably never thought you dreamed of ever doing, getting ready for a draft. Do you think that has affected the result come next week?
I guess over time we'll prove that right or wrong. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, our process really hasn't changed much. Look, we've never been our coaches didn't go on the road a lot anyways. We'd send a few coaches out, but it was never a big emphasis for us where we're putting the coaches on the road a lot. Now, our contact points with scouts and players, yes. But, there's, you find new ways to do that, and it's through avenues like this. So, essentially, have there been some tweaks to the process? Yes, but not a major overhaul to the process. And look, I mean, I think we know what's at stake during this draft. This one's going to be heightened, and they're already scrutinized at the 100th degree anyways. This one's going to get scrutinized at the 1000th degree on who took who and, what was the success down the line. And like I told our guys, so look, we're not going to change the way we do business. We're not going to change our process and how we scout and how we make decisions. We're going to draft, and we're going to let it rip. And to be honest with you, I'd like more picks. I feel very confident. I'd like more picks. We'll see if that happens or not. But, I feel confident in our group. I feel confident in our work and what we've done. And we think we're going to acquire good players.
All right. Philip B. Wilson.
Thanks for your time, Chris. Appreciate
yes, sir.
it. First off, is this the adjusted draft central behind you here where you're at? I mean, is this where it's going to happen?
I actually turned around because I didn't want you to see the rest of the basement that I'm working out of.
I wondered how unusual that's going to be for you to draft. Is that your basement or is it?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
it's my basement. Will you have your staff with you, or are you guys going to be remote communicating?
No, everything's remote. I'll be alone here at home. If you look, I'm sure they'll show flashes, and you'll see kids running around during it. I mean, it is what it is. I got 5 kids and I got 3 dogs, and eventually they're going to flash in front of the screen. I mean,
okay.
I've been waiting for my dogs to pop up here, and they haven't popped down here in this basement.
All right. What I wanted to ask you, is there a moment in your career that will stick with you forever that you learned the lesson of not reaching in the draft?
That's a good question.
You sound like you learned the hard way by how you've been insistent on you can't reach on a pick.
Yep. I'll tell you one, and everybody won't say it now, but taking Quentin Nelson. I mean, when everybody said you can't take a guard at 6. I mean, I even heard it. I heard it in a lot of different spots, but you can't you take the best player, man. You take the best player. Quentin Nelson was the best freaking player at that point in the draft. I'm not sure if he wasn't the best player in the entire draft. That to me solidified it and said, you know what, just I don't care what position he's at. Take the best player.
Thank you.
And I think we know the impact that kid's had.
Yeah. Stacey Dales.
Hey, Stacey. I can't. Your mute's on. You got to do your mute.
Thank you so much for your time, and I'm glad everybody here is. Hopefully, everybody's safe and healthy. Just on a call with the Lions, talking about logistics and what they're doing. As far as backup plans, redundancy plans, what as a staff are you doing logistically right now, heading into next week in terms of the logistics?
Well, we'll have look, at the end of the day,
what surrounds you?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I'll pick up my phone and I'll call in the pick. But saying that, I mean, look, I've got a generator now put in my house to make sure we have backup electricity. I make sure we have a backup internet. You know, all those things. We will have a run through internally one day in the next few days, and also with the league. We'll go through every scenario. Okay, let's say I get dropped off, my internet and my electricity goes down, and we're on the clock. What do we do? I mean, we'll walk through every scenario to make sure we're prepared for it. Look, I don't know. I got a couple guys that are as anal retentive as you. Ed Dodds. Ed does not leave a freaking detail. There's nothing that doesn't go checked here between him and Mike Bloom and all our scouts. They make sure that we're going to be covered on that end. And they know how I am, because I'll just kind of flippantly say, well, I'll just pick up the phone and make the call. What do you mean? I mean, but they're pretty detail oriented, and they make sure we have everything mapped out.
Okay, we got time for a few more here. Zack Kieffer, you want to ask? There you go.
Chris, you talked a lot about not forcing the quarterback spot. I get that. Not forcing it. You can't reach. At this moment, you have nobody at that position under contract for 21. You hope for the best at that spot. Maybe Rivers comes back for another year. Maybe he doesn't. If everything goes wrong, what's your level of concern long-term without anybody in place for that position moving forward?
Well, I can already see the story for this year. Saying that, look, we'll make decisions when they need to be made. And we'll always have our eye on that position. It's just, we're always going to have our eye on that position. I wish I had a crystal ball in front of me to be able to rub it and tell you what we're going to look like a year from now. I'm just trying to get through, the next week here to get through the draft. But it's one that we'll always keep our eye on, Zach.
All right, Mike Wells.
Chris, you've always talked about controlling the line of scrimmage, offense, defense. We see what you have in offensive line. Defensive line has been a focus this offseason. When you look at this roster, I know we still have next week. Do you believe with the addition of Rivers that you guys are ready to take another step forward? I mean, based on what you've done so far and then what you hope to do next week?
Signing, it's like anything else. I mean, at the end of the day, all the accolade, everybody's saying, well, you did good getting this guy, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you got to go work, you got to come together as a team, and you got to prepare, and you got to play, and then you got to win. I know as bad as everybody thought it was last year, look, we finished 7-9. It wasn't like there's some games in there we could have easily not screwed it up, and we could have been looking, 9-7, 10-6 in the face. It wasn't like we were that far off. So I don't look at any year, and I'd probably answer that question no differently any year, Mike, because every year's different. Every team's different. There's change, and you got to work, you got to earn it, you got to come together. During these circumstances that we're under right now, it'll be interesting to see, how things get done and how teams come together here over the next 3 or 4 months. I mean, that's always one of the things that, the camaraderie, guys getting to know each other, being able to do it virtually now. It's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out over the next few months.
Okay, we're going to do 2 more. Chap, you're up next.
Hey, Chap.
Chris, quick question, non-draft related. You guys have made it very clear you keep planning for sort of normalcy, the plan, the schedule. Can you imagine September football with fans, football without fans? What in your mind? What do you think?
I don't know, Mike. I really don't. I wish I could. That's just being honest. I don't know. We'll follow what the league, has us do. They'll have a plan. Owners and, the league will get together and have a plan. I know this. They'll do what's best for the safety of all, for safety of our fans, for the safety of our players, safety of our staff. It's such a time of uncertainty. We just don't know. I'm always going to prepare and plan for the best. I'm going to prepare, and we will prepare as though we're starting up and ready to go to work when training camp starts, if that's when it is.
All right, Kevin
Hopefully
Bowen.
sooner. I mean, you never know. I don't know.
All right, Kevin Bowen, last question.
Hey, Kevin.
Chris, I know you got a little bit of time on this, but do you plan on picking up Malik's fifth-year option?
Yeah, we got a little time. When I get through the draft, we'll sit down and we'll talk about, the direction we're going to go there.